And we're here. What do you know? West Coast Week Backpack Show.
Doesn't it feel weird to be here at this time?
Discombobulated. I got nothing. What in the world? I mean, it feels like the hours before the show were not even real hours.
It's still the Backpack Show with Chris Rogan, the business success show. So today we have mother-daughter authors Lan Cao and Harlan, her daughter, Harlan Van Cao. And we're going to talk about their book, which is all about the experience of a refugee mother and an American daughter. And they alternate chapters. It's really, really interesting. So you get both perspectives. And it's about family, it's about culture, it's about just coming of age. It's really, really interesting. So we're going to talk to them about that. Lan is the author of several books, including The Lotus and the Storm and Monkey Bridge. So I'm excited to have her here today. And we have the world's oldest blogger, Millie Garfield, with us. I know her from the video series, I Can't Open It.
Great
which
show.
Is exactly what it sounds like. Things that were hard to open. And what I love is that some businesses actually change the packaging of their products, like to send to her so that she could actually open it and like test it for them. So it's pretty cool. But she's done so much more than just that. So I'm really excited to talk with her today too.
You might also know her as the mom of Steve Garfield of stevegarfield.com, just in case you did. Maybe.
Possibly.
Backpack Show.
Chloe's here. Hi, Chloe.
That was our new intro. Did anybody like our new intro video? That was birthday boy Darren Gorgone made that for us. So thanks.
See that you like it.
I love it so much.
I know.
I play it to myself all the time and look at all the people that we've had the great opportunity to speak with.
So the book, Family in Six Tones, alternates chapter by chapter. And I really love the different perspectives and writing styles. And I definitely want to talk to them about what that whole collaboration was like, in whether it was weird to have your mom read the stuff you thought about her while you were growing up.
That's crazy times. Crazy.
The first thing I thought was like, oh, the last thing I would want is my mom to see anything I write about her. Like,
gotta say hi to everybody first. So Chloe's here. I'm touching the buttons. Ha ha ha. Fauzia's here. My dad. Hi, Dad. Steve, Millie's son. Carol is here. I love the new intro. You better. And another yes for the new intro. I'm still touching the buttons. My mom, this looks fun. It's gonna be fun. I think you met Millie before. Hi, Michelle Scumane. Hello. And author Len Joy, also an author like Lan and Harlan. You might know Fauzia, who loves the new intro. One of the sponsors, too. Nice intro, nice intro. You're all good people. All right, that's it. We did all the button touching Fazia. Now. Lan and Harlan. Hello, family. How are you?
Hello.
Welcome.
Thank you for having us.
Oh, it's our pleasure. So my first question is for Harlan. What's it like having your mom read what you thought about her while she was bringing you up?
It's so funny because now that you bring it up, I feel like I definitely should have cared about it more. I don't think I did though. Like it didn't even cross my mind. Like every time I wrote, it wasn't like, oh God, I hope she doesn't read this and we'll get into a fight. I just thought like, well, I hope I wrote this well. I hope people will like it. And there's no like grammatical mistakes for her to pick on me about. And
that's what you worried about.
Because our whole life, my whole life, we've always argued, probably like every other day there's an argument. It's very up and down. So we're either like getting along really well or the whole day is just like sarcastic comments back and forth. So like she already knows what I think about her because I tell her all the time.
Oh.
Yeah. But
whether or not she wants to.
So there were no secrets. I guess that's good. Coach Woodard is here.
Yeah.
Kate's hello. Hi, Kate.
Well, so I have a question sort of from being a parent of an 18-year-old and a 14-and-a-half-year-old. Neither of my kids likes books the way I grew up. I was a bibliophile. I read because books were my secret escape hatch to everything else. Neither of my kids would even vaguely write a book with me. How did that happen? Whichever one of you. Like my kids don't even read my books, but you know, you're writing one. So how'd that work out?
I have always loved books. When I was a little kid, I was just absolutely hooked on the 1001 Nights, Arabian Nights. And I love the idea that there's this woman who's the book is about her telling stories to save her life. And
Right.
I've always felt like by reading books, I feel like I'm insulated a little bit from, the ups and downs of stuff that's going on in Vietnam. I love going and being transported to the Arabian countries and learning all about their customs. I love that. I tried to get her to love books too. But I mean, she reads, but not in the voracious way that I used to read. And I find that the best way for me to have ever become a writer is just from having read so much. But Harlan did not read a lot and does not read a lot, but I think she's just naturally funny. And so the way she writes, even when she writes something very serious, has some funny little points in it that make people relate to what she writes more, even if the subject is serious. So we never plan on writing the book. It fell into our lap, basically.
Harlan's like, did it fall into our lap or did you make me?
No. She wanted to do the book more than I did, actually, because I've never done a memoir form. I'm very much more naturally inclined towards fiction, and my 2 prior books were novels. So Viking approached us to do the book, right? I mean, they heard our interview on NPR, and we started the interview when Harlan was only 12, and it was the format was the daughter asked the mother a question, and it was part of I think it's called the First Days Project. It was done in conjunction with an American project for NPR, PBS. And a few years later, it ran on Morning Edition, StoryCorps, because it was the 50th anniversary of the Tet Offensive. So the Tet Offensive was a very big deal in terms of how the Vietnam War was seen by Americans. So 50th year anniversary, they pulled out the portion of the interview that dealt with the Tet Offensive and played it. And just totally serendipitously, the editors at Viking heard it and approached us to do a mother-daughter book on the theme centered around war and leaving and arriving in America.
I wanted to do it because, like, I don't know how to say this in an elegant manner, but...
Don't say it elegant then.
Okay.
Yeah, you'd be way above us if you did that. Okay.
Well, we were going to fight anyway in our relationship between, like, my ages of, like, 16 and 18, so I'd rather just fight toward a goal than just to, like, fight the way everyone else fights. So I figured, and even if the book didn't go as well as I wanted it to, I feel like it would still be a good experience for me. I really wanted to write just to start a career, even though what I really want to do is write movies. It was really important to me to just try it. And I mean, it's obviously not what I had hoped for. Like growing up when I was like 5 or 6, I would tell people like, I want to be a writer, even though I didn't know what that meant exactly, but I would still say it. But obviously I didn't think it would be with my, like, the woman who's in charge of me, but
it sounds like you never considered her in charge of you. At least reading about your upbringing, you would say things like, you're not the boss of my artwork, like when you're 5. I'm thinking possibly
that was a total culture shock for me, because I never did that with my parents.
That's what I want to ask next. I was thinking, Lan, that when did you come over? When were you?
Right, like in 75, the country was collapsing. Mm-hmm. And we had an American friend. He was in the U.S. military. He flew back, basically adopted me, took me out, and I lived with his family. So 75, I was 13.
75 was when I could not remember the date. So 13. So you come here, you have to learn so much so fast in a country that is still fairly hostile to you, just for your image, just because of so much that just happened. Not your fault. You weren't out there. But you had to take that all on. You had to sort of you were adopted into a culture where you were respectful. You were kind of on your back foot the whole time. And so now to have to, manage that experience with Harlan, that must be such a different experience.
Totally, because in Asian culture, respect and showing respect is really, really, really important. And it's sort of like you're taught to never do something that upsets another person, because it's a very relational culture. It's not like I am an autonomous being. It's more like I am this person, a daughter with a mother. I am a granddaughter with my grandmother. So there are roles that you play, right? So your individuality might exist, but it's within that microcosm of a relationship web. So the idea that you would do something to upset your parents, like consciously, I'm sure I brooded and were resentful towards them, but would never say, you're not the boss of my anything, because yes, you are the boss and I will genuflect, before you. That's sort of what you're expected. So when she first said it, I was just so shocked.
That's a law professor word right there, by the way, genuflect. Means you get down on one knee, for those of you on the Backpack Show who didn't know, like I didn't know until I saw the movie Aladdin.
Genuflect, show some respect, down on one knee. Yep, it was right there in my head the minute she said it.
Mm-hmm.
Not talking to authors, are we?
No. So Harlan, what was it like to realize that there were expectations of you that maybe didn't align with your opinions and ideas for yourself, and that your mom came from a culture where you were expected to fall in line, as opposed to the American culture, which is very individualistic.
Before you leave, I just want to say, see you, Dove. Thank you for dropping by for a minute. I'll answer your questions after the fact. All right. Go.
Oh yeah.
I think the Vietnamese side of me was really good, because if you find the middle ground, I think that's perfect, because then I can grow up to be not just like obedient of whatever it is, but still very conscious of other people's like space, to be considerate. That's very important to me. So just like the Vietnamese side, even though I'm totally not so much into just genuflecting, it's about just
there's no genuflecting.
Yeah,
there's none.
Yeah.
Believe me.
But I think I'm still a good kid. Like I'm considerate of like her preferences, even if they're really weird, or like we get to know, we're very close, so it's not that hard for me. The thing is though, is the rest of the family, it's much bigger, and we're apart from them because they're on the East Coast. So the Vietnamese culture, everything I've seen from it, apart from going to Vietnam, actually, has all been just from one person, and she is so much, I guess she's different than the rest of the family, just because she definitely took a completely different route in life. So she doesn't only have the Vietnamese idea of just like respect the parents, like obey. There's also, she's very career oriented, she's very high functioning, so I really do respect her a lot. So when I see that, it makes me lean a lot more toward the Vietnamese side. But then on top of it, I was raised by my dad, he would always say like, oh, you have to break one law a day. So if like there's another way,
like just one,
just obey them. So he would always say stuff like that. And he was a law professor, so that's weird. But
both your parents are law professors.
Yeah,
so you didn't get away with anything.
There's a very high standard for me, just because, as Chris was pointing out, she came here with nothing. And then throughout high school, she learned English during high school, and she still graduated top of her class. So it's very difficult for me when I get like an A- on an English paper, because why should I, when I'm pretty much fluent and I have all the resources to do really well. So in her head, she'll be like, well, it's because she's lazy and she didn't do the work on time, which is probably true, because I love to procrastinate. It's very, and sorry, what was the question?
Oh, it doesn't matter.
You're nailing it. Don't worry.
Carol had a question for Lan. When you came here, I think at 13, she's asking if you spoke English, if you spoke French, like if you had any way to kind of bridge the gap, or if you just were thrown in like immersion style.
When I was growing up in Vietnam, there were, of course, as you know, because of the war, there were a lot of American servicemen around. And some of my closest friends, strangely enough, were young American servicemen who had a camp down the street from where my house was. So they used to play the Stones, 19th Nervous Breakdown was played all the time. And I watched American television. I watched Combat, Ironside, my favorite Martian, Beverly Hillbillies. So I picked up some of these English tidbits. But that's very different than entering high school and having to learn English in order to do well in high school. And my father expected me to be like, after the 9th grade, my high school had 500 people, to not graduate, but be ranked number 1. And it was high pressure on me. And
you did it.
I did do it. And I spoke French very fluently. French was almost my first language, because my parents they were both fluent in French, and they spoke French to me as our private secret language. And then, of course, I also speak Vietnamese, but my Vietnamese is not very good anymore because it's sort of frayed at the edges since I haven't really spoken it. It's never advanced beyond the 13-year-old vocabulary.
My 13-year-old vocabulary was probably very different. So you didn't just do well in high school. You went to law school, and not just any law school, Yale Law School. So I'm feeling like Harlan had a lot of pressure herself, probably self-imposed, to do well. Am I wrong?
Yeah, I think it was self-imposed, but also every time that I give up on myself, she's always there to kind of like, we were taking the dog to training the other day, and they always say, like, if he kind of slouches, you take the leash and you like pull him up just to remind him to have good posture. It's kind of like that. Like, I always felt like she'd kind of tug on me. But the issue was just between us is that she would tug on me even when I wasn't slouching. If that makes sense.
It feels like slouching to me.
Right. Like slouching.
Right. You see, there's one of the biggest struggle we've had is that I really believe that, there's a very simple formula for me for success. And that's the formula I used when I was in high school. Because, as Chris said, when I entered high school, I was right away in America entering high school. Like, I didn't have middle school to get me, to nudge me into the American educational system. And I always thought that education was the only way up. That was the best guaranteed route to advance. So I had to do well, and I felt like there was a very simple formula. And it's a very simple Asian template. Asian parents never tell their children, you're so smart, because it's not within your control how smart you are.
It's about hard work.
Yeah, my parents always said, somebody will always be smarter than you. So it's much better if you focus on things that you can control, which is how hard you work. And that's totally within your control. So I always tell Harlan, there are 3 rules. And if you follow these 3 rules, you'll be fine. And it's a very Confucius-based 3 rules in many ways. It's kind of like the Protestant ethics that Weber wrote about, which is 1, like, don't wait until the last minute to do something. It's so simple. Don't wait until the last minute. That's in Western culture too. That's the ant and the grasshopper. Right?
There's so much to dig into here. So you have all kinds of theories about why the 2 of you are so different. And
it's pretty much just therapy on live.
It's amazing. And there is some darkness to the book. Like, I don't want people thinking it's this like rollicking exploration of childhood or something. I mean, that's there, but there's obviously a lot of serious overtones to it. But the book's called Family in 6 Tones. Definitely get it. Lan Cao, Harlan Margaret Van Cao. I hope you can stick
around if you can. We'll do a little panel at the end
because we'll have you back out. But in the meantime, everyone go follow them on Instagram, go check out their books, go and find them all the places. And this book is a good read. I read it even in order. Like, I thought maybe I should read one person's chapters first and then go back and read the other person's, like, to kind of get a holistic.
Oh yeah.
But I couldn't make myself do it. I'm like a completionist. Yeah, I'm a completionist, so it didn't work.
See how you are. Well, we have had some great chitty chat, a lot of good comments, a lot of people here, which is super great. Carol says, focus on what you can control. Steve says, wow, amazing insight. Steve, your mom's coming on next.
Don't wait until the last
You could
minute.
be like Lan and Harlan and do Steve and Millie. Oh, you've done that. Right. Okay.
They have done that.
I know so much. But listen, before we get into all that, let's do some sponsor stuff. So
if you insist.
I do, because I want money, bags of money, sponsors. We're sponsored by StreamYard. You can make your own show, and it would be better than this one. Go to cbrogan.me/StreamYard.
Because this one has Lan and Harlan and Millie. So this is going to be the better show.
This is the best show, right? cbrogan.me/StreamYard. Get your own damn show. Get out of mine. We have a person of the day that is sponsored by our friend Fazia Burke and the FSB Associates, pub-site.com. You can get a site if you're an author. So if you are an author and you've bothered to write your dumb book and you need to make a dumb website, go to pub-site.com and you'll have an even better website.
If you've written your thought-provoking, powerful, emotional book, and you need a website to promote it or to promote yourself as an author, go to pub-site.com. It's super easy to set it up. And if you don't want to set it up, they will set it up for you. So there's a 2-week free trial. And after that, it's just $19.99 a month. It's super, super easy.
And these sites are made for authors because they know you're dumb and don't know how to make a website.
Would you stop it? They're not dumb. They're brilliant, talented, insightful people who just don't know web design. And
I'm the best copy reader. Now, don't forget, there's a person of the day for our favorite comments later. That's also sponsored by pub-site.com.
That is true.
So listen, when I talked to Millie Garfield at conferences, the last time I think I saw her in person was at the BCEC, I think at Inbound conference, or it could have been Marketing Profs conference. Every time I see Millie Garfield, this is what is true. Millie Garfield will be standing somewhere. Now, Millie Garfield is not 6 feet tall. I've done the measurements. She's not 6 feet tall. There is a swarm around her the whole time. You cannot get near Millie Garfield because she's so important. So this is so super important. You've got to meet her. She's beautiful, good looking, smart, clever, and raised Steve Garfield somehow. Millie Garfield, so glad to say hi to you. How are you?
How did you manage to raise Steve Garfield? How did that go for you?
That went very well. He was very quiet. He didn't make waves. He did what he had to do. He didn't complain.
What happened?
He was a good kid till he got out in the world and he found out you don't have to do everything on the list. First job, he had a friend, and the friend gave him the best tip because the boss gave the two of them a list of things to do for the day. And Steve was trying to do everything on his list. But the friend said to him, Steve, do what you can. Don't push yourself because the boss knows you can't do it all. Do what you can. And he tried to stick by that rule, but he always pushed to do more. He did. He always did more than was required.
So when we were talking with Lan and Harlan, I kept thinking that when you talk to Steve Garfield, it's like, what would be better is if you move that bookcase or adjust your computer screen down or do this or do that. He's very much looking for that next level, and it reminded me of Lan. And so was it like that for you? Did he put that pressure on himself, or was there anything from you that was like, Steve, you could do it better?
I don't think, maybe he thinks differently, but I didn't think we put any pressure on him. He did what he thought he should do. He was a good kid. The only thing he didn't do, he didn't know he shouldn't do it, but he went to the hall closet and there was a bottle of some detergent in this bottle, and he picked up the bottle to see what was in the bottom of the bottle. He tipped it up and off to the emergency we went. He looked to see what was down in the bottom. He found out it went into his eye.
Oh, it's awful. Steve, stop it. Don't do things like that.
Yeah.
Now, you started in door-to-door sales for Avon. You used to do that. What was that like? Because, door-to-door sales.
Me, I did that. I did that because I wanted to get a job. I wanted to do something, and I couldn't get a full-time job because the kids came home for lunch. So our mother had to be home to give her kid the lunch, but I had to get out of the house. And I found Avon, and they gave me my neighborhood, which was great. So I was home for lunch. When he came home, I was there. And as soon as he left, I went about my business door to door, and I learned a lot on that job. And I went to the meetings once a month. They had a meeting of the upper guys, and I always went to that meeting, always learned something from it. And one of the things they said, one of the many things they said was, When you go out knocking on doors, you're going to knock on 10 doors before someone says yes. And so that kept me knocking on the doors. And sure enough, eventually I got a sale. And that's how I built up that business. I also learned from them, you have to show the merchandise. When you're out walking and you're selling the product, just showing you the book isn't enough. Just showing them this is on sale. You have to show the product. And so one day I went out to a new neighborhood, to a new lady. And no, she doesn't want any Avon. She doesn't want any part of Avon. But I pulled out this little elephant. The elephant was loaded with tonic for a guy. Oh, she said, that's cute. Oh, I like that. And Christmas is coming. I'll get that. That'll be a good gift for someone. And she became a longtime customer.
Wow.
Because she saw it.
You have to be persistent, and you have to show the merchandise, and you have to keep coming, which I did. And also what I learned after I made the sale, I ordered the merchandise, and then I had to order it for the customer. And when the merchandise came, I would call the customer and I say, hi, how are you today? Would it be convenient for me to come over today to pick up your product? Meaning, do you have the money? Because if you don't have money to pay for it, I'm not coming.
That's right, because you wasted the trip. So you were helping them out.
Yeah, so I never left without calling to say, is it convenient? And they always had the money. I didn't have to come back for the money.
That's very smart.
I got the dough.
Speaking of smart, Steve says he never drank any weird things in the closet again. So I guess that's good.
Just one and done.
Right. He learned from that experience.
No, Keith says you're amazing. And Steve says my dad and I ended up packing those orders.
I stayed with it, and then I got people to sell for me. Then it became too much of a big deal for me to go door to door. It was easier for me to get people to sell for me. And all I did was place the order it, pack it up, and give it to them. And gave them.
You don't mean Steve, like you mean other people. Because Steve's like, I had to deliver those orders on my bike. Not that he's still mad about it.
I did after a while when Steve got a bike, I asked him to deliver to some people for me, which I don't think he really liked doing it, but he did that. And some of the people that I did not deliver to was the people who wanted the company. They not only wanted the product, they wanted the Avon, they wanted my company, so I could spend time with them. And my time was valuable. I had to go to the next person. So I learned how to manage that one. So that was
Millie, you
started
blogging in age 78.
Right.
You started blogging at a time in 2003 when nobody even like in their 20s was understanding blogging very well. And you said, I think I'll do this because of that weird hooligan son we know, but you had a chance to kind of get your hands into it and start figuring out what you wanted to get done. What was appealing about it? What made you say, now this I want to put my time into for a little bit?
That's a good question. That's a very good question. I think one of the things, I knew Steve was into it, and I wanted to know more about what he was involved with. And when I asked the question, he answered and set me up. Then I began to understand what was going on in his life and what he was doing. And so that opened up that door to me. And then I started to meet some very interesting people from different worlds that I didn't know anything about. So that kept me going. When my following grew, I grew with them. And that was a very good thing. And before I knew it, one thing led to another. And I met this lady from Paris. She came to Boston to visit some people, and we had a relationship going, and she came to Boston, and I took her out to lunch. Where did I take her? I took her to a French restaurant.
Perfect. Boston's French restaurant.
My life became it got larger. It got larger, and none of my friends were doing it, and their lives were just ordinary, doing ordinary things. And here I met this Ronnie Bennett, who she really helped me a great deal. She worked for Barbara Walters before she lost her job. She worked with Barbara, so she had a lot of experience, and she was helpful to me and led me and opened the door for me and got me going more deeply into it. And one thing led to another. And that's how it just kept on growing.
How did the I Can't Open It series start? Your YouTube series on I Can't Open It.
Okay, what happened, one day Steve came to my house and I had a jar of coffee, Maxwell House coffee. I could not open the coffee. I had trouble. And Stephen was questioning me, why are you having trouble here? So we went to the supermarket and we found a jar of Maxwell House coffee up there. And it was hard to open. And so we did, and I remember very well, that was the scene. I put up the coffee and I said, I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what to say. And I said, what do I do now? I didn't know what to do. And he said, Ma, just tell them your name. Tell them your name and what the problem is. And I did. And that was the beginning of my doing I Can't Open It. Then I had no trouble talking.
So you had a lot of trouble opening.
That's very good. To this day, I have trouble opening, but you're absolutely very well put. I had a lot of trouble at the first, even talking. But once I got going, there was no stopping me.
Fazia says she loves you and she wants to be Millie when she grows up.
That's funny.
Steve says this is awesome. Chip joining us from YouTube says, imagine combining I Can't Open It and Will It Blend? That could be an interesting show idea. Steve says, it says push here, but you don't push there. He's very upset that the instructions are incorrect.
That was a quote. That was a quote from the show. That was, I remember it says push here, but you can't push
it. You don't push there.
It's a great show because it has nothing to do with age per se. It has everything to do with packaging and
usability.
Usability. It's fun.
I remember one time I had a little container. It had cologne in it, and I could not get the cologne to get out of there. So give it to Steve, and he said, Ma, you push here. And he was holding it in his hands, and when he pushed here, he got it in his eyes. So that was not the place.
So you did do it again, Steve. You did do it again, just like with the pledge in the closet.
Steve's like animal testing, but on a human.
Yeah, we had a lot of fun doing it. Never had to do one twice. I pulled out one product. We did that scene. That was it. That was a take. No
one take Millie. That's what I hear. Okay.
One take.
Keep bragging.
Yeah.
That's all she needs. Hey, that's how you do it too, Chris. It's just whether you make a mistake or not, you just go with it. Millie
I just leave it if it's messy and she doesn't make mistakes.
It just came very, very easy. It was a lot of fun.
So I'm going to bring back a mother and daughter team, Lan and Harlan. And as I do, one thing I wanted to put a little highlighter on, I love what Millie said, that everything got bigger and more exciting for you when you started blogging. I love that. That's a beautiful sentiment, because all it mattered was that you just got a chance to make a big show happen. You made something big happen out of the world that you took a look at.
Right.
People are amazed. Justin says, one take proper talent. Steve says, one take Millie. Carol says, you're looking good. And Steve says, oops, he did do it again. With the drinking substances you're not supposed to.
That must be what Britney Spears was singing about. Harlan and Lan. So I have a question. Are you, can you imagine this kind of collaboration going as long as Millie and Steve, so that Lan, when you are 95, Harlan will still be swinging by the house and making sure you have deli for your 95th birthday and that sort of thing? Do you see that coming?
I think we'll be orbiting around each other and driving each other nutty, probably. Because we have pretty close relationship, which I think makes things probably harder because you're not coasting and it's not skimming the surface. And some days can be very hard, but because of that, I think we'll continue this entanglement, like you and yours, Millie.
So you're very close and very involved with one another, but so different that's difficult at times.
I think if you come up with a formula about how to create two really diametrically opposed people, it would be the two of us.
So we can remake The Odd Couple, which, given your other TV viewing, I'm sure you watched it.
Possibly, although it was to learn English, right? It's not like you were just watching TV to bum around. Like you had an objective, and so you learned English.
What it does is it has a purpose, right?
That's like it seems like that.
Yeah. Whereas my day, it's like if I want to do this, if I want to do that, which is cool because it means she's given me that. It's a privilege, right? Like it's not everybody gets that. And I did realize when I was little, and this is very unfortunate, I think, for a relationship, but I realized I didn't have to work super, super, super hard to get material in school. So like I was very very confident with my work, like an English essay. There was one thing, it was really funny in freshman year. I waited to the last minute to do an essay. I thought it was perfect. She read it and she texted me and she was like, this is disgusting pretty much. Like your grammar is this and that. I'm going to fix it. We're going to fix the grammar. So she went in, she explained every grammar mistake to me. She fixed it and I still got a B+, right? So now she's really upset because now it's like kind of both our work is being insulted. So she was like, you are going to go in, you're going to ask her why you got a B+. And the teacher gave me an answer. I told my mom and she was like, well, you should tell her this. And the next day she was like, did you tell her? And I was like, but I definitely didn't because I was it's the whole situation. I feel like the teacher could tell because the grammar was perfect, like suspiciously perfect. So I had something to do with that.
Like you use the past imperfect tense. Nobody does that.
Subjunctive.
Which is amazing. So you're actually now going back and forth with your teacher and your mom, trying to keeping it on the down low because you're not supposed to have help from your mom.
Right. And I also don't want to tell my teacher and like dispute this B+ with her. And she was like, my mom would say like, well, point this point out and point this point out and like write it down and you're going to go tell her what you're going to say, what I tell you to say. And it was just so stressful. So eventually we had to come up with something where she would just have to trust me. She promised me she would kind of let me go like the second half of high school. But every time I looked at her phone, like the most recent app that was open was like my grade book. So obviously that's not like she would do it, but quietly.
But as long as she didn't mention it to you.
Yeah, I didn't care. Yeah.
It's like if the tree falls and nobody sees it in a forest, did it really fall? So I saw it.
Sorry, we have a puppy and he just takes his bone and he just drops it wherever he feels.
Oh, that's okay. I was just thinking, so Steve Garfield, Millie Garfield's son, who's in the audience, he went back and forth with these people on Twitter called Room Raider like 16 times one Sunday, trying to get his background exactly right. So what you're talking about reminds me of that. It's like, well, ask her about this. Ask your teacher why she took points off when there's this. And it's like that drive to be perfect, even Millie, when perfect is defined by someone else.
So I have a question that goes with that, Millie. Lan's method has been kind of intense. Let's agree, Lan. Your method's been a little intense as far as that you were bringing some of your cultural baggage with, as well as, how you rate, bring yourself.
Cultural
Millie,
expectations and norms.
Expectations. I said, well, and baggage. Millie, you said, Steve was just always like a good kid, no matter what. He just did his thing. It's when you sort of think about parenting, would either of you ever write a parenting book, or have you realized that that's almost an impossible act in some ways?
Oh, I would never think of writing a parenting book.
Because of Steve and how he turned out, or?
I don't know what I could have done differently, what I could have done better. But that sounds too far out for me to deal with a parenting book.
I love Steve. So whatever you did, just, do it again next time.
Oh, children are every person is so different. How is a parent going to know the right thing to do? That's pretty chancy.
Lan, that's one thing you talked about, that there are times you don't necessarily feel like you know the right thing to do when you're raising a child. Right. And so, and Harlan was very canny, and she picked up on that ambivalence immediately.
Right now, today, the parents don't know the right thing to do.
No. But so that through your whole upbringing, Harlan, you could tell that your mom was not exactly sure. And so you capitalized on that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Parents today can go to authorities to go to the experts, and the experts are not sure what to tell the parent. So I would not want to be a parent today.
No, but Lan, you're an expert, at least in your own mind, in certain things, but parenting was not one of them, right? So Harlan, then what was that like?
Definitely, I thought the whole time, because I'm very, I don't want to, not in a bad way, I hope, but I think I definitely knew what she was doing wrong. I would always tell her, this is I would say, you have to know us better. You have to know, I need a concrete rule. You can't rely on my common sense, because our idea of common sense is totally different.
Right. No, that it's too hard. It's hard to be good.
Yeah, I would always say, you need a rule. I would kind of give her, it's kind of weird. I'd be if you want to parent me, you have to do this, you have to do that. And eventually I realized, Millie was just saying, she never knew what to do. And I felt like my mom didn't know what to do, but the good thing about our relationship is that I loved her because of that.
But that's
the
not
relationship.
True. That's not true, Harlan, because I did give you rules. There were 3 rules. Don't procrastinate.
Yeah, but those are so vague.
No, they're not vague. Don't procrastinate. Always do extra credit. That is the key of success. If the teacher gives you extra credit opportunity, you pounce on it. And the third thing is, of course, you're not going to remember, always do more. If the teacher says, answer questions 1, 3, 5, all the odd questions, I would go and do the even questions also, just for myself. That is, to me, the 3 keys, very mundane.
That's a good one.
Rules to success. But gets you to, sort of the basic foundation. Now, if you want to go up the stratosphere, you may have to have creativity and all that. But those 3 simple rules anybody can do.
That's
Chip wants to know if we can all make suggestions on how to improve Steve, like a room raider, but for people. You can't improve Steve. Steve is wonderful just as he is. But thank you, Chip.
Thanks for thinking of us.
Thanks for thinking of us.
All right. So the show is coming close to an end. And because it's called the Backpack Show, I don't know what the show's called. Because
the Backpack Show.
The Backpack Show. We have this question. And this one question is, what goes in your backpack? Now, this is a metaphorical backpack, although sometimes people sneak in real physical things. One question about the backpack is, so if the shifting sands and soils are here, and if we are in this world where we don't really know what's next, what kind of metaphorical or physical practical things should we stick in the backpack to succeed in the next 5 years? Harlan, what goes in the backpack to help people succeed over the next 5 years?
Can everybody else go first? Because I have to think of something.
I like that.
I can tell you mine would be the extra, because everything is linked now to the internet and all of that. I would always carry the extra battery pack.
Are you talking about a metaphorical battery?
Yeah, but
you can do either way. But
that's okay. We had somebody put an avocado in the backpack. Other people put
a real physical battery pack whenever I travel, but it's also metaphorical. Because it's plan B. That to me is, having a plan B. That's the battery pack.
Stay charged, have a plan B. I like it.
Lan always has. You have multiple plans, not just B. I think you go through the whole alphabet twice. Meanwhile, Harlan is if A doesn't work out, it's going to work out.
I don't think A is not going to work, because it's never not worked out for me, which totally shows how hard my mom worked to give me everything. If I don't even need a plan B.
You got that right.
Get a plan B, please.
Okay.
Millie Garfield, what goes in the backpack?
Well, what I'm thinking is what my mother, she always had a saying. When I was growing up, she always had a saying, if you don't go out, nothing happens. I was not an aggressive kid. I was placid. I did what I had to do, but I was not moving enough. And so she always said that to me. And to this day, today things are different, but up until before all this, when I went out, if I went out and just went for a walk, something happened. If I hadn't gone for the walk, nothing would have happened. And I used to think of that a lot, because when I went out, I saw someone, they told me something important that was good for me to know. If I hadn't gone out, I wouldn't have gotten that knowledge.
It's very important knowledge right now, because we are stuck at home all the time and we can't go
out. I cannot go out.
We can't go out for a bit, but
that's what we're doing on Zoom.
All right, listen, we have a very important part of our business. We have to show the person of the day now.
I went out. I took advantage when I could.
Good.
And we will again.
You do it. All right, listen, we're going to throw the person of the day up. So let's do this button. And our person of the day is sponsored by PubSite, pub-site.com. We picked this at our own discretion. There is no challenge, no secret word of the day or any of that sort of a thing. I just decided it has to go to Chip Griffin for being the only person live on YouTube. So he's going to hold down the
only one commenting. We don't know.
Oh, that's true. We don't know if they don't comment. So that's the deal. So that is our person today. Chip Griffin. You are entitled to an apple just like this one on the screen. If you go out and buy one for yourself, you get no other things.
No, you
money.
Should buy for yourself though. Don't buy the apple. Buy the
Family and 6 Tones. I think that's a really good choice. Viking, I think, is our publisher. Did I do my homework right?
Okay, and I recommend reading the chapters in order. You might be tempted to go with whichever writer speaks to you, but don't. Go back and forth between Lan and Harlan.
Oh, that sounds. I'm going to look for that book.
I'll send it to you, Millie.
Millie, one of the world's best publicists for authors, just followed you on the Twitter. So look for Fazia Burke to.
She's going to want you to write a book.
Inking up your stream, but she'll try to talk you into getting a book out there. So watch out.
I want you to write that book.
And there's never really the wrong time to write a book. My grandmother is an author in her own right. And